about genetic testing. So genetics. Genetic is defined as the study of heredity. But in clinical laboratory medicine, it is focused on two subspecialties. Okay? The human genetics that study the heredity in humans, and the medical genetics that study the human genetic variation of medical significance. Now, medical genetics can be further subdivided into 5 groups. 2 primarily in the clinical genetics and genetic counseling, and 3 in the laboratories, 3 laboratory sciences such as your cytogenetics, molecular, and biochemical. So let's discuss these 3 laboratory sciences: the methodologies of your genetic testing, the cytogenetic, the biochemical, and your molecular. For cytogenetics, cytogenetic is defined as a science that combines the methods and findings of cytology and genetics, allowing the investigation of heredity at the cellular level. Now, this involves the evaluation of your chromosome, your DNA, complex with histone and non-histone proteins. Now, cytogenetics continues to be the most cost-effective and straightforward test to detect the chromosomal numerical and structural rearrangement. Clinical application can be found in all age groups and genetic specialties relating from prenatal diagnosis to cancer evaluation. Now, to recognize or to understand this, to understand cytogenetics, first we must discuss chromosome. Okay, the human chromosome complement would include 46 chromosomes ordered in 23 pairs, the one shown in the picture. One member of each pair is inherited from the mother, while the other comes from your father. The 22 pairs, also known as autosome, and appears as homologs to each other. While the 23rd, the last one, okay, includes the sex chromosome, which is for females, they are homologous, 2X chromosome. For the males, they are non-homologous, 1X and one Y chromosome. Okay, that's for the 23rd. Now, for the chromosome, the structure of the chromosome, a single metaphase chromosome is composed of 2 DNA double helices associated with protein. Now, each double helix termed as chromatids, and the chromatids are held together by your centromere. The centromere will act as a landmark and divides the chromosome into 2 distinct regions known as arms. The short arm or your P arm and the long arm known as your Q arm. Okay? If the arms are equidistant from each other or very far, they are called metacentric. But if they're very close to one another, then a chromosome is called submetacentric. Okay? Notice in the edges, you will see the telomere on both ends of your chromosome. Okay. To perform cytogenetics, you should do cell culture first. You can get your specimen for routine. You can get routine for adults and children. You can get heparinized peripheral blood. You can also get culture, skin biopsy. For prenatal analysis, you can get amniotic fluid from amniocentesis or chorionic villus sampling, or chordocentesis or percutaneous umbilical cord sampling. Okay. After you have done your cell culture and have stained them, you can do your karyotype analysis. Karyotype as analysis is essential to be able to rapidly and accurately identify each chromosome and determine when the chromosome abnormalities are present, like the one shown in the picture. Okay. Now, karyotyping right now can be connected to the computer, and then once you have captured the images, cytogenetic laboratories are now using computer-assisted imaging for a better picture of your karyotype analysis. Another method is that you can do fluorescence in situ hybridization or FISH. It is a combination of molecular and cytogenetic technology. Now, your fish would require a molecular probe that is labeled with fluorescent dye. So when you will see your chromosomes in the screen, you will see them lights up like this one. Okay. The most common goal is to determine whether a gene or a specific mutation or a particular chromosomal rearrangement is present. One example in this picture is the AML. Okay, so in the AML we know that there is a BCR-ABL gene fusion. Okay, in this picture you will see the normal one is that the BCR-ABL gene should be separated, but in here see them fused together, and that is a positive or BCR-ABL gene fusion. This is the best example for your fish. Next test is the biochemical test. First, we have for the cytogenetics, it deals with your chromosome. For your biochemical test deals with the analysis of the proteins. Okay. Now, the sample that uses for this is the blood or urine. It looks for too much or too little proteins that are made, misfolded proteins, altered or active site of other critical region, or incorrectly modified or localized buildup of protein or assembled proteins. Next, molecular testing. Diagnostic molecular genetics now shows a promise of becoming the most powerful diagnostic and screening tool of the 21st century, spurred on by the introduction of a high-throughput DNA sequencing technologies and ever-growing description of the gene-disease association in the human genome. With this progress has come the recognition that virtually all diseases, including the neoplastic or your cancers, even the infectious ones, have some genetic component. Okay, so since this is an age of your molecular, many molecular techniques have been developed. Okay, the one that we have known right now, the most famous one is the PCR technique from the COVID testing. So these are the other techniques for your molecular genetic testing. Now, the application for your genetic testing. First is your carrier screening. Carrier screening is a term applied to detection of a recessive, detection of recessive mutation in healthy individuals for the purpose of genetic counseling and family planning. Now, this is divided into two regions. Number one is for those individuals with a family history of the said disease. Or next is the population-based screening of large numbers of individuals that do not have a family history, but they could be at risk for the disorder because it has a high prevalence within their population. So the importance of this, is to identify the couples who are at risk and would have a high risk of having an affected child with each pregnancy. Next is newborn screening. Newborn screening aims to identify relatively prevalent inherited defects in otherwise asymptomatic individuals. So now the DOH, okay, has developed this expanded newborn screening. Before, we only have this congenital hypothyroidism, congenital adrenal hyperplasia, phenylketonuria, maple syrup urine disease, tyrosinemia, hypothyroid, and G6PD. But now they have expanded it and added these recessive diseases. Okay, so from before, from 5, now they are they have added some more diseases for the newborn screening. So from the moment the baby is born, okay, 24 to 72nd hour of birth, okay, they will perform the newborn screening. A few drops of blood will be obtained from pricking a baby's heel. It is blotted on a special absorbent card, dried for at least 4 hours, and then it's sent to the laboratory for testing. Okay, this is the absorbent paper where the sample would be placed, the blood. Okay, and this is a detachable portion for the field health claims. So before the mother gives birth, the hospital or the clinician would give the consent form to the mother for the newborn screening. Okay. This is already, the payment is already included in the field health. This is also mandated by the DOH that all babies should undergo newborn screening. Next is diagnostic genetic testing. By definition, performed on a symptomatic, okay? This patient has the symptoms already. Symptomatic individual. Because the single gene DNA tests are absolutely disease specific and the diseases themselves are quite rare, these procedures do not cast wide enough net to be used for extensive differential diagnosis. Okay? It's only used to identify or rule out a specific genetic or chromosomal condition. Take note of the word specific, genetic or chromosomal condition. It is also used to confirm a diagnosis when a particular condition is suspected based on the physical signs and symptoms. That's why the test is very limited. It can be performed before birth or at any time during a person's life, but is not available for all genetic conditions. It's limited. Next, pre-symptomatic DNA testing. This test is applied primarily to late onset dominant disorder, in which the patient of an affected parents are aware, okay, the patient knows that they have an increased chance of having the inherited disease gene, and they decide and they want to know if they would get this certain disease later on in their life. Okay. So one of the examples for this testing is the Huntington disease and other heritable cancer syndromes like the BRCA1 gene. Okay. What is the downside for pre-symptomatic DNA testing is that there is a high risk that the patient could be discriminated against because the possible disease of knowing that this patient could have a disease, his future employment could be at risk. That's one of the downside I know for this for the pre-symptomatic DNA testing. Next is the prenatal testing or detection of genetic diseases in the fetus. fetus. Okay, so you're going to test genetic testing on a fetus inside the mother, inside the when the baby is still inside the mother. Okay, so these tests, diseases like your most of the Mendelian disorders, especially inborn errors of metabolism, and because these diseases are not expressed either visibly via ultrasound or biochemically in the fetus, we do the genetic testing. Okay. So this test is a predictive testing at the DNA level. It is used to detect changes on a fetus gene or chromosome before birth. This is offered during pregnancy, okay, to know if there's an increased risk that the baby will have a genetic or chromosomal disorder, but it cannot identify all possible inherited disorders and birth defects. Now, this prenatal testing has a lot of issues, ethical and medical, some medical issues, because in our country, abortion is not allowed. Okay? It's illegal to have an abortion, but in other countries where abortion is legal, some mothers would undergo prenatal testing to know if their child would have genetic disease, and then they would have an option for abortion. So for here, this is for expectant management to know what will happen to the baby when it comes out. So there are two ways for you to get a sample for your prenatal. First is the amniocentesis, an invasive procedure that is performed at 15 to 20 weeks of gestation. Okay. Next is a chorionic villus sampling that is performed at 10 to 13 weeks of gestation. So you will remove a chorion either transcervically or transabdominally. Now, as I said before, there is an issue about the way and medical issue, because the way you get the sample, there's a high risk of miscarriage on the patient. That's why it's very dangerous to do this testing. Okay. Next, these are some routine markers that were tested for genetic testing. Okay, the one that we know, yung BRCA, as I've said before, the BRCA1 and BRCA2. The most famous person who underwent this is Angelina Jolie. Okay. Others is the Down syndrome, CTFR mutation, FH mutation, okay, Huntington's disease, Tay-Sachs, sickle, anemia, MEN2A. I think that's it. Thank you for listening. Okay, gusto niyo eh. Quick lecture. So do you have any questions about genetic testing? Genetic, more nag-focus lang ako sa mga genetic, pero the molecular test has many other uses. Pero yun, more of genetics lang tayo, kaya hindi ko na siya tinakil yung other use ng molecular. So, yan. Any other question? Any questions? Ang Roji, tapos na po. I think if you don't have any questions, you are... Teka, tanong muna natin. Pwede na po ba sila umalis, ma'am? Mommy?
Kung tapos na yung lecture, pwede nang mag-log out yung mga estudyante.
Ayun.